K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. K98talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98talk.com.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those who undertake. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. I am Rick Robinson. This is America Off the Rails. It is Thursday, February the 5th, 2015. It is just a couple of minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock right here live on K98Talk.com. For those of you who are wondering about all the different ways you can find this show, just in case you're finding us for the first time, this show is available on SoundCloud through replays. It's available on Stitcher through replays. It is available live anytime it is live, airing on K98Talk.com and the Spark Radio Network's website. It is also featured and carried live anytime the show is live on the K98Talk.com TuneIn Radio app. Also, the show is available on its own Android app. If you basically go to the Android market, put America Off the Rails in quotation marks, you will find the app there. Also, this show is available through iHeartRadio. So again, as we've said before, if you aren't able to find us, it's mainly because you're not looking. One last thing that I always forget to mention, for those of you who do know, this show and myself have been featured on TopTalkRadio.com. If you're ever not sure how to find the show, the link and everything that takes you right back straight to the show is right there on that page. So if nothing else, bookmark that page. It should even light up to let you know when I'm going live, as long as it's going out of the particular RSS feed that they have access to. But we do sometimes do shows that don't go out on that feed, because occasionally when I do replays, our special shows, I don't necessarily want those going out everywhere all at once. So it may get added in later. So all I can really do at this point is just kind of remind you that this show is live for the most part, subject to occasional last-minute changes, from 6 to 7, Monday through Friday. It is also live on Saturday morning, starting at 11 Central. All times for us do run Central, and that show typically runs for 2 hours on Saturday. It's kind of the extended show because Saturday is my Monday as far as the radio biz goes. So that's the show where I typically try to lay everything out. Of course, this past Saturday we didn't do an episode. There were some things I was trying to get ironed out behind the scenes. However, we will be live with you both tonight, tomorrow night, and then, of course, Saturday morning. Actually, if you really want to do the whole Iron Man thing, you can listen to us first on Finding Common Ground. That show runs from 8 to 10. That is one of the few shows that actually does have a liberal co-host. For the next few weeks, it'll have Bryce Robbins from Opinion Nation taking the left chair, and of course, I will take the right. And then, of course, as soon as Finding Common Ground is over, or within a few minutes thereof, we will go right straight into the Opinion Nation show hosted by Mr. Robbins. And then once that show is completed, we'll go straight into my show, again, America Off the Rails. As far as programming lineup for tonight, of course, when this show concludes, we will go straight into the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio show. Tonight, to make up for the fact that I was having some internet issues last night, as soon as that show goes off the air, we will have the replay of Liberty Unfiltered, which normally airs for us Wednesday nights, but my internet was being crazy last night, and there just wasn't anything I could really do about it. So we'll get that one up for you. And then, of course, 9 o'clock, you'll have Liz Harrison, and then still trying to figure out the L&M stuff, because sometimes their shows are available, sometimes they're not. So if we have one available, we'll get it out to you tonight. If not, make sure you start off the morning right with Denny C starting tomorrow, and then, of course, I'll be back with you tomorrow night. That just kind of gives you a little bit of a rundown of what we got going on here. Of course, we are trying to add new content daily. We are in negotiations with a few folks to try to make that happen. As soon as we are able to make a formal announcement, we will. One of the ones we are looking to try to add is the Ruthie Report. For those of you who may have missed it, she actually joined us on Wake Up America this last Tuesday for the last half hour of the show. Kind of gave us an idea of what it is that she's passionate about and what she tries to use that show for. And we do plan on at some point beginning to air that show. Most likely it will air kind of a mid-afternoon time slot for us. Not sure what day yet. Still trying to get a few things ironed out there, but that is definitely in the works. Also, just because I haven't done it in a while, want to give a shout-out to my boy Grouchy, also Miss Polita Bunny, who is a rock star among those of us that do talk radio through the interwebs, and also my boys Backpack and Yoda. Thanks, guys. You guys have been great since you've joined us here as an extension of K98 Talk, and you guys are doing great things over there at Voices of Global Freedom Radio. Just wanted to take a second just to give you guys a shout-out. All right, so we do have a lot on tap today. Lots of things I want to talk about. The first thing I want to play for you, just to start off with a little bit of fun before I see if I can maybe do a show without blowing a gasket for at least once this week. Not holding my breath, just saying. But we're going to try. I'm going to try not to have a meltdown today. I promise. I'm going to try. But maybe if I start off with something a little humorous, maybe I can keep that from happening today. Who knows? But anyway, we here at K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network have taken our first tiny little sticking our toe into the waters of doing a parody. This one will probably change a little bit as we continue to move towards the election, but it's something that will get probably played over and over and over again, so it will probably be improved upon and variations done. But hey, it's the first one we've ever done. I personally can't stop laughing every time I hear it, so we're going to fire it up right about now.
Listen to my story about a man named Jeb, a poor millionaire who could keep his family fed. But then one day he was talking to his pops. His pops spelled it off. Jeb should try for the tops. Top office, that is. Presidente of the United States of America. The next thing you know, old Jeb makes a run. The whole time his brother says, this'll be fun. So now for 2016, that's how Jeb became the GOP's hillbilly. Now come on and vote for Jeb now. Y'all hear? Ta-hoo!
All right, folks, we're having a little bit of a technical issue. I'll be right back.
This is Misty, owner of Waxit Studio in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I'm here to talk to you about a skincare product called Theramedics. Theramedics has a wonderful line of products from anti-aging to hyperpigmentations all the way to acne. In fact, everyone at some point in our life is affected by acne. Acne can cause a great deal of embarrassment and anxiety, and in order to prevent and help other people, I have tapped into this wonderful product called Theramedics. Visit my website at www.prettyskindeep.com. Again, that's www.prettyskindeep.com.
Late Night in the Midlands covers everything. We cover the known and the unknown, the normal and the paranormal, the government lies and the government ties, and even their thrives. We tell what's coming, what's going, and talk about the topics the mainstream media would never dream to touch. We're Late Night in the Midlands, we're independent, and we cover everything and expose the truth one show at a time. Go to www.latenightintthemidlands.com for more details, and tune in every weeknight at 9 p.m. until 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on K98 Talk.
We believe in the American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our...
You liked him on Facebook. You followed him on Twitter. The Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show, a talk show host who's not afraid to say what's on his mind. A live, in-your-ears kind of program, coming to a computer near you, starting in January every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern and 7 Central, brought to you by the Spark Radio Network and K98Talk.com.
Proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of...
When shopping for yourself or that special someone, try a unique touch with White Apartment Studios, where they specialize in fine candles and custom gifts. Visit Stacy R's website at whiteapartment.etsy.com. That's whiteapartment.etsy.com, the world's most vibrant handmade marketplace. And tell her you heard it on K98Talk.com.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, lest you pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause there's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect, or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. Well, the good news is I did get whatever was causing the terrible humming in my headset taken care of while we were on commercial break. I also had to take the commercial break early, so we'll be commercial-free for the remainder of the show. We'll probably give a shout-out to a sponsor at some point going through since we had to take the break early. But anyway, so back to what I was talking about before we had to narrow something down here, and that was the parody that we did entitled The GOP's Hillbilly. Now, that actually has been something that's been rattling around my brain for a little while now. It took a little while to get it sorted out, and, it, like I said, will probably undergo a few variations as we continue to add to it. It may get a little longer, may have a few more things added to it as we go, but, who knows? It's a long time to 2016 at this point, so we have plenty of time to continue to run with it. Unless, of course, Jeb comes to his senses. I don't see that happening, though. I do have to admit I am rather happy that Romney recently made the announcement that he is not going to try to do the whole third time is the charm trick, because, let's face it, let me be completely blunt. Romney probably would have been a million times better than who we've had for the last 8 years. But with the mess that we are going to find ourselves in at the conclusion of this, now almost 2/3 of the way into an 8-year term, we need somebody that's going to have some teeth, because the world is falling apart and we're watching. You don't believe me? Look at what's going on with ISIS. We used to be the ones the world turned to when they were in need of finding somebody who was willing to stand up. Now our commander-in-chief is basically the live-action version of Patrick Starfish. Stumbling and bumbling his way through everything, blaming everyone else every time anything goes wrong, talking about the fact that he doesn't know anything more than we do because he got everything that he knows from the same news channels that we watch, and that only happened a few minutes ago. Mr. President, you have some of the best minds in the world that put your intelligence briefings together, and if you're not going to partake of them, or you're going to insult them on national TV and talk about the fact that everything that you know about incidents you found on the news, I know a few people that would love to sit in on those briefings, myself included. So, yeah, feel free to give me a pass, because I'd like to know the things that you know that you like to pretend you don't know. Because let's be real, you can pretend you're an idiot in front of a teleprompter all you want. I know better. I mean, let's give you some credit here. You've managed to now be elected twice, so you are not an idiot. So the whole idea that everybody keeps trying to give you this free pass because you haven't had any real experience and all you've ever been is a community organizer and that you've spent your life in academia, blah, 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 yada, 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 ad infinitum. I'm so bored I'm going to puke because everybody wants to keep giving this guy a pass. And the simple fact of the matter is everything that's happening is happening exactly the way you wanted it to. We just haven't been paying attention. There are a lot of us that are paying attention now, Mr. President, whether you wanted us to be or not. I mean, let's take a second just to start connecting the dots. Go all the way back to Fast and Furious. And then let's start moving forward. You've got Fast and Furious, IRS targeting. IRS targeting who again? Oh, conservative nonprofits. You had the Benghazi incident that still nobody knows for sure what the heck happened there. I still want to know why our ambassador was there in the first place. What was it he was trying to do? Why was it so important for him to be there when you had all of these briefings telling you how bad things were getting and he's asking for help and asking for additional support? Why did he have to be there? Why is it that the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE spend so much time in the White House? Everybody wants to tell me how CARE is this benevolent organization. Everything I can find on CARE goes back to articles that basically come out of UAE and Egypt and other countries of that region that talk about its ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and the fact that it's basically trying to normalize itself while still basically being a front for a terrorist organization. These are the kind of things that I'm telling you about so that you can do research on your own. I'm not telling you to take my word for it. I'm not telling you to take everything that I tell you as gospel. I'm telling you what I've been able to find so that you can either find it on your own and either find the information and either refute what I'm saying or find out if what I'm saying is true on your own. That's the point. These shows are opinion. That's what they're for. I bring things to you, we talk about them, I tell you what I think, and then you go find your own information. And that's how this works. For all of you that keep sending me all this mail about how I can't keep doing and saying all these things that are so anti-Muslim, I've said it before and I'll say it again. My calendar's open. If you're a Muslim and you want to come onto the show and talk to me about what a great religion you've got, then fine. You send me an email. We'll schedule a time. We'll sit down. We'll talk. We won't even do any prep work first. I'll let it be a surprise to everybody. We won't ask any questions ahead of time. I won't prep any questions for you. You'll just come on the show. We'll shoot from the hip, and we'll see where everything lands. Because I have to tell you, at this point, I don't know. What I do know is that there are way too many Muslims that seems like this administration is afraid of. If they weren't afraid of them, why are they removing things like Islamic terrorists and Islamic fundamentalists from all of the training materials that they're using at the national levels? Why is nobody calling an Islamic terrorist anymore? They just burnt somebody in a cage, for God's sake, and they're still freedom fighters. depending on who you ask. And where are we in all this? Sitting back, wringing our hands, going, oh no, I don't know if we should do anything to offend them. Because, well, we can't offend people, can we? You know what Jordan did? Jordan went Godfather. You sent one of my guys to the hospital, I sent 2 of yours to the morgue. Because that's just the way things are when it comes right down to it. And I've seen people that disagree with my statements, and I've seen people say stuff about an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. If you don't stand up to the people that are trying to hurt you, they're not going to stop until you do. It's the same thing as the schoolyard bully. Everybody wants to talk about how bullying needs to stop. The only way to stop bullying is to stop telling kids that they need to curl up in a ball like an armadillo until a damn teacher gets there. That's how you stop bullying. It's called natural consequences. If someone starts picking on you, you should have the right to be able to defend yourself. If they go from words to more than words, you should have the right to defend yourself. When you have people that are threatening to kill you, you shouldn't have to be nice to them. When you have people that are killing other people in the name of a certain God, you shouldn't have to be nice to them. Are we nice to the Westboro Baptists? Do we coddle them? Do we say, oh, we can't go protest against them because we might offend them? No, we stand up against them because we see what they are, which is hypocrites. Complete and total hypocrites. Now, where am I going with this today, you might ask? Plain and simple, where I'm going, before we change gears to the last topic of the show, is there was a prayer breakfast today. Anybody hear about that nice little prayer breakfast? Where our illustrious Patrick Starfish, a.k.a. Obama, stood up in front of a crowd of people and compared the atrocities of today committed by Muslims to being the equivalent of the Christian Crusades and the Dark Ages and yada, 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 blah, 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 yaggity schmackety. Yeah, he said it. Not only did he say it, and yes, I said it that way on purpose, not only did he say it, but he meant it. You know, I'm just going to be completely honest for a moment, because there's a quote that's been going around for quite some time, and of course, if you read the whole quote, you're wondering exactly what he was talking about. Because when just one of the sentences is taken out of context, it makes it sound like Obama is admitting that he's a Muslim. But when you listen or you read the whole statement, basically what he's saying is that, you know, we shouldn't rush to judgment because many people are part of multi-religious homes. I should know because I happen to be one. Of course, that's a paraphrase because I don't have it in front of me. But here's the thing. Depending on how you read that, you can take it one of two ways. Is he admitting that he's a Muslim? Or is he trying to say that we shouldn't rush to judgment because there are plenty of people that are part of two religion homes or two religion families, and that people have to find a way to get along? See, here's my thing, because I see people and they put out the quote that doesn't have the entire thing, and then they put out the quote that does have the entire thing, and then the next thing you hear is everybody talking about how, well, you know, you shouldn't do that because that's putting it out not in complete context. But there's a whole nother context nobody wants to give. Because yes, we can talk about how his words may not mean what we think they mean when we look at the entire quote, but look at his actions in comparison to those words. Look at his actions in comparison to those words. What has he done since he's been in office when it comes to the Islamic fundamentalists? What has he done? He's pulled us out of Iraq. Now we're having to go back in. Eventually, whether he wants to admit it or not, we're going to have boots on the ground. It's going to be the only way that anything is going to change. We don't like it. We don't want it. But that's the truth of it. We're going to have to go back in there to finish what we started. I don't care if you agree with why we went in there in the first place, or whether you're one of these people that wants to say, well, there were no weapons of mass destruction, blah, 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 yada, 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 Bush lied, Cheney's an ass, yada, yada, blah, blah. Okay, that being said, there's been plenty of documented proof that nobody wants to talk about that shows a large amount of what are believed to have been chemical weapons going over to their good neighbor Syria. What happened a few years later? Syria started using chemical weapons on their people with the same signatures. So can we just start calling a spade a spade? If you want to say we went in for the wrong reasons because Shrub, otherwise known as Bush 43, decided he needed to get even for the fact that Saddam basically, in the long run, in the eyes of the world, gave Bush 41 a black eye because they didn't go in and finish the job the first time. If you want to talk about the fact that we're the ones that propped them up in the first place, hey, we deserve the blame when we deserve the blame. But the simple fact of the matter is, at this point, that entire region has been destabilized. Somebody's going to have to do something about it. And for all of you that are we should shut down all of our bases everywhere else in the world, and we should just bring our people home, and we should be spending our money here, that's really great. Sounds good on paper. But what happens when they start coming here? Because I've got news for you, ladies and gentlemen. They're already here. Our border is wide open. It has been for ages. That's why there's so many of us that don't like this new supposed naturalization with Cuba. Because now we have communist people that have ties to China and Russia that are still communist. China is. Russia wants to be, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. But we're going to just start letting folks just go over to Cuba, pump all this money into their economy. Well, that's well and good. What about our economy? Anybody talking about the fact that a lot of those numbers don't add up? Just saying. Because the simple truth of it is, a lot of those numbers don't add up. The numbers that he gave in the State of the Union address were crap. They were the same thing they've been doing for God knows how long, and they pull so many different numbers from so many different places, leaving out the actual numbers and filtering out the people that are no longer actively looking for work, and not taking into account the fact that most of what they consider part-time work is now 32 hours or more, thanks to Obamacare, because if you pay anybody for 32 hours or more, they have to have health care if you have a certain number of employees. So there's all of these little factors that nobody takes into account. They keep giving you all these rosy-colored numbers about how we should basically be partying like it's 1999 because our economy hasn't been better since then. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not seeing it. I know a few people that tell me that they are, but I'm not yet. I'm still just as broke as I was 8 years ago. When the economy started crashing and the rug got pulled out from underneath me, nothing's changed for me. Nothing's gotten any better. Yes, I have a steady paycheck. Yes, I have a job. Yes, I have evening work that keeps me busy, that is starting to pay me. But starting to pay me and paying me are completely two different things. So, yes, at some point, if I keep persevering and I keep doing what I'm doing, eventually I may get better. But is that going to be because of the administration or in spite of it? Much like these gas prices that everybody's touting. Those are not because of the administration. Those are in spite of it. Whatever positive has come out of our economy has not been because of this administration. It's been in spite of it. If they had gotten the government out of the way and freed this giant engine that we call a free market economy, we would have recovered like nobody had seen since the 20s. It really is that simple. Now, as I said, we did already take the commercial break, so we're going to go ahead and go commercial-free for the last half hour. In order to do that, we are going to give a shout-out to one of our commercial-free sponsors. That is Rolling on the Floor, LaughingMyButtOff.com. If you're like me, ladies and gentlemen, and you spend way too much time dealing with the political mumbo-jumbo, watching folks from MSNBC, CNN, Fox, trying to get as much information as you can from the internet, eventually, at some point, you just got to take a break, and how I do that is Rolling on the Floor, LaughingMyButtOff.com. It is a great website with all kinds of nice, funny little clips and information and anecdotes. Quickest, easiest way to find it is you take the first letter of each one of those words, you slap a www and a dot on the front and a .com on the back, and there you have it. So next time you're feeling down in the dumps, or next time you need a little bit of a pick-me-up, feel free to head right on over to Rolling on the Floor, LaughingMyButtOff.com. You have my word, you'll be laughing in 5 seconds or less. As long as your internet speed lets you load up that fast. I'm just saying. Okay, so the last thing I really kind of want to talk about today, then we're going to have to probably wind things down about probably 20 minutes from now, just to give me time to change over to the Conservative Curmudgeon Show. Of course, you know, we do have to do some downtime stuffs in between. So, got a few clips I want to play for you in regards to a breaking story. And then I do have, I guess, one other story I kind of wanted to touch on. Talked about it a little bit about it the other night, but I'm going to go ahead and probably go over it one more time. But this one I thought was kind of important. We're going to kind of listen to these in pieces, because it's 3 different segments, and then we're going to talk about them. So I'm just going to kind of play them back to back, so bear with me for just a moment.
Our colleague Brian Williams is back in Kuwait City tonight after a close call in the skies over Iraq. Brian, tell us about what you got yourself into.
Well, in the end, Tom, it did give us a glimpse of the war being fought as few have seen it. We asked the U.S. Army to take us on an air mission with them. They accepted. We knew there was risk involved. We knew we would be flying over Iraq. We discussed it. We weren't cavalier about it. We took off, and that is right about when things started to happen.
What's the weapon status? Right now, it should still be locked and loaded on safe.
Indeed, just before we're able to make our drop, radio traffic makes clear this routine mission is running into trouble.
We took fire on the way in. We currently are not under fire. I say again, not under fire, but we look for some type of security. Over.
We quickly make our drop and then turn southwest. Suddenly, without knowing why, we learn we've been ordered to land in the desert. On the ground, we learned the Chinook ahead of us was almost blown out of the sky. That hole was made by a rocket-propelled grenade, or RPG, fired from the ground. It punched cleanly through the skin of the ship, but amazingly, it didn't detonate. Though the chopper pilots are too shaken to let us interview them, we learned they were shot at by some of those waving civilians, one of whom emerged from under a tarp on a pickup truck like this one and shot the grenade. We meet a unit from the 3rd Infantry, called in, as it turns out, to protect us from the enemy, which they say doesn't look like the enemy. A massive sandstorm grounds us for 2 nights. The infantrymen stand guard the whole time. This morning, the skies finally cleared, and we prepared to move out.
We're going to kick and burn and get the heck out of here.
Yeah, man. Have a safe trip back.
Yeah.
We thank our protectors who prepare to push on toward Baghdad, and we head back to base. Our routine 6-hour mission had turned into 50 hours that were anything but.
All right, so for anybody who was wondering, that was from a news report from 2003 when Brian Williams, who was embedded at the time, actually was part of an air mission that, of course, as he stated, did take enemy fire. Now, the reason I play this original clip is because I have another clip, and this is what he said. I believe it was either last night or the night before. We're going to listen to that real quick, and then one other one, and then we're just going to see where that takes us.
The story actually started with a terrible moment a dozen years back during the invasion of Iraq. when the helicopter we were traveling in was forced down after being hit by an RPG. Our traveling NBC News team was rescued, surrounded, and kept alive by an armored mechanized platoon from the U.S. Army 3rd Infantry.
Okay, so if you remember, in the 2003 report, it was the helicopter he was traveling with that was hit by enemy fire. Now, all of a sudden, a few nights ago, it's his helicopter that was hit by enemy fire. Now, the reason I point this out is because of what he said when he got caught, which is what we have queuing up right now, so bear with me for just a moment.
On this broadcast last week, in an effort to honor and thank a veteran who protected me and so many others after a ground fire incident in the desert during the Iraq War invasion, I made a mistake in recalling the events of 12 years ago. It did not take long to hear from some brave men and women in the air crews who were also in that desert. I want to apologize. I said I was traveling in an aircraft that was hit by RPG fire. I was instead in a following aircraft. We all landed after the ground fire incident and spent 2 harrowing nights in a sandstorm in the Iraq desert. This was a bungled attempt by me to thank one special veteran and, by extension, our brave military men and women, veterans everywhere, those who have served while I did not. I hope they know they have my greatest respect and also now my apology.
Okay, can I just say that at this point in time, to borrow a phrase from my good friend Dave, my pocket bullshometer is pegged in the red. You're trying to tell me that 12 years later, you conveniently don't seem to remember that you weren't in the helicopter that got shot at and shot. No. What you were hoping was that nobody else was going to remember, so that for 5 seconds you could feel like you'd accomplished something. Because you sit behind a desk most of the time, and you talk about things that honestly don't matter. You are a talking head. They feed you the things that you are supposed to say to lull the populace to sleep, instead of making sure that they can pay attention to all of the crap that's going on around them. You, sir, are part of the problem. Can I say that again just one more time? You, Mr. Brian Williams, you lying sack of crap. You, sir, are part of the problem. All of a sudden, because you wanted to feel like Billy Badass for 30 seconds on the air, your story changes, and all of a sudden, ooh, no, I mean, come on, you're a news guy. It was bad enough that the helicopter in front of you was shot at. You're not used to any of that crap. Everybody would have given you props for even deciding to be there, because you didn't have to be. But now, 12 years later, you've got to be an armchair quarterback hero. Oh, I was in the helicopter that got shot down 12 years ago and spent 2 days in the desert. Shut up. Nobody cares. Your news stories are irrelevant. Your ratings suck, which is why you tried to pump them up and it blew up in your damn face. So sit down and tell your teleprompter to shut the hell up. I'm sick of this crap. From Al Sharpton, who's got a show on PMS NBC. Sorry, I'm just going to say it the way it is. And the president's ear, to this douche canoe who decides all of a sudden, well, the fact that I was there and actually reported on the story originally wasn't good enough. Now we've got to juice it up and say I was in the helicopter because that's just how I roll, baby. Yeah, no, just go away. Just shut up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares anymore. Your whole damn channel is irrelevant for the most part when it comes to the news. Nobody listens to you and nobody cares. And that's why you did what you did. You wanted to try to feel important again for the 30 to 45 seconds that you lied your ass off in front of the American people. And you got caught. So deal with it. well, it was a misrecollection on my part. That's as bad as I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Or, yes, I smoked it, but I didn't inhale. I mean, obviously your side of the aisle honestly does think the American people are rather stupid. I mean, even one of the so-called architects of Obamacare basically said the exact same thing. The only reason it passed was because of how stupid the American people are. So obviously, for once, we've managed to prove to you that we're not as stupid as you think we are. Because you blatantly tried to lie on the air. You blatantly got your private parts slammed in a door, and now you're trying to backpedal. I got news for you, brother. Everybody knows you're a liar. So at this point, we have two questions. Are you resigning from the news? And do you plan on running for office? Because if you can try to lie that smoothly, you might as well try to see how much more crap you can stick to the American people like the rest of these damn politicians. But I got news for you, brother. Even if you run, you ain't never getting my vote. I don't care where you live or what you run for. It ain't going to happen. Because you're a liar. And everybody knows it. And you can backpedal about it all you want. It doesn't change the fact that you're a liar. Okay, so I think I've given him about as much airtime and as much of my breath as I choose to. I don't watch NBC for my news. I do tend to get a lot of it from the internet these days. I do occasionally watch Fox News, usually for somebody like Hannity. Occasionally, used to watch, actually I guess I still do, watch Stossel, and then occasionally The Five. I have watched some things on CNN. There's a Crossfire show over there that I think is kind of cool when they actually managed to air it. I used to try to record it so I could watch it, and then half the time I'd go watch it and it wasn't even what was on. So, yay, CNN. Good job. Way to keep your people informed that your schedules are changing. Maybe that's why nobody's watching you anymore. Alright, so that being said, there are a couple other stories I kind of wanted to touch on, and then we'll start winding things down for the night. This one has been making the rounds, and of course, I've already talked about it a little bit, but I do have to again say for the record, for once and probably only on this single issue, I agree with Hillary Clinton when it comes to immunizations. Now, I'm not saying if you have religious objections that you shouldn't be able to practice your faith. I'm also not saying at this point that if you're one of these crazy people that thinks the inoculations are worse than the diseases and worse on your children, and you don't want to expose them to them, that's fine. Then homeschool your children, because they don't need to be in schools with our children. Now, again, that being said, there are way too many crazy stories out there on the internet about all of this, bad stuff with immunizations and how there's too many bad chemicals in them and things that are causing children to have autism and blah, blah, blah. If you happen to look into that stuff at all, you would find that this is one of the things that always amazes me about people that supposedly do all this research. Anymore in this day and age, when you look at all the different reports and you look at all the different studies, you really need to find out who funded them. Because they're not going to pay for the results they don't want anymore. A lot of times these reports are tailor-made. I don't care who it is. Because they're funded by these people, and these people want certain results. So those are typically the results they get. If they don't get them with the first group, they'll keep doing it till they get the ones they want, and those are the ones that they publish. Because that's the whole point, is to have supporting documentation, no matter how fraudulent, or no matter how made up, or no matter how screwed up any of it is. So that's like back in the day, when there was this whole argument between sucrose and sugars and normal sugars and not normal sugars and the corn syrup and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Each side had their own papers with their own arguments, and each side had paperwork that supported whatever their side of it was. And that's because they paid for the results. But the truth was in the middle. The simple fact of the matter is your body doesn't like too much sugar. If you eat too much sugar, it can trigger some of the same effects in your brain as taking a controlled substance, such as cocaine. There have been studies that have proven this. There have been studies that have proven that there are certain things that your body cannot break down. Those would be the artificial sweeteners that a lot of folks like to rant and rave about that are in things like Coke Zero. Your body can't process those. So they build up in your kidneys because your body doesn't know what to do with them. Those are facts. You can find those on your own. They're there. But what I'm telling you is, just because you see what you think are facts, make sure you delve a little bit deeper and find out who paid for the results. Because there are impartial studies out there, and you can find them. But if you just do a little bit of a Google search, the first few results you're going to find are going to be paid for by either side of the argument, and they're going to support whatever side of the argument they want them to support. The same thing happens with our news, and with these vaccine stories, and even with this Brian Williams stuff. It's all about what pays. That's what drives me crazy when it comes to this whole profit-driven news cycle crap that we find ourselves dealing with every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do you know, I honestly miss the days, and now I really am going to sound old, but I miss the days when at like midnight, 1 in the morning, the national anthem would play, and you'd start hearing the station, whatever station you're watching, talk about concluding its broadcast day and wishing you well. And then you'd hear a test pattern for probably about 5, maybe 10 minutes, and then there would be some static. Because at that point, even if it was midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, at that point, pretty much the entire world that we knew shut down. Everybody had a chance to rest. They had a chance to process all of the crap that had gone on for that day. But now it's all piled on top of you over and over and over again. And it's all categorized and sorted depending on who's going to agree with what arguments. And those are the only ones that everybody looks at because they only want to hear the news that they agree with. That's why we're in the mess that we're in. That's why this douche nozzle, Mr. Williams, a couple of weeks back, thought he could pull a fast one. That's why we have all of these people that are all of a sudden on this anti-vaccination tirade. And let's be completely honest. If we're going to lay the blame at where it deserves to be when it comes to this recent outbreak and these other things that we're dealing with, this is people coming from other countries. Apparently, the Disneyland outbreak has been traced back to a European, not, as everybody's been claiming, probably from this overrun southern border problem, but this still basically is one of those things where you've got to realize that not everybody's vaccines are the same. That's why it's important for you to have the vaccines that we have available, because, I mean, come on. I'm about to offend someone, most likely, but I'm just going to say this. Because this is one of the things that I never have understood when it comes to a certain sect of folks, which I believe is the Jehovah's Witnesses, who won't do blood transfusions. I had a friend growing up who was a Jehovah's Witness. I have to admit, it's probably one of the strictest religions I've ever seen in my life. As a matter of fact, we were at a movie theater because he had stayed the night with me that night, and then his parents the next day had offered to take us to see a movie. We were watching Back to the Future. There was a single curse word, one. And his mom and dad turned around because they leaned over the seat because we were in the row in front of them. And they said, if there's another one of these words, we're leaving. Or no, that wasn't even the movie yet. That was a preview. Luckily, at least when we got through the previews, there weren't any more curse words. And honestly, I was probably 12. I don't even honestly remember if it was what I would consider a curse word, but they were offended. So needless to say, I almost didn't get to see Back to the Future. Luckily, we did manage to stay for the movie. I think it was mainly because he begged, because the parents weren't real happy with the overall theme of the movie, if memory serves. But anyway, I digress just a little bit. So the whole blood transfusion thing, something that I never have understood, because there's technology in place that will help you save someone's life, because we know enough now when it comes to blood transfusions on how to make them as safe as possible, but because of your religious beliefs, you won't do that. I understand that to a point if you're of the age where you can legally and objectively make that decision, but why would you force those same restrictions on children? Because to me, to say that you believe God will be your healer, that's great. But I also believe that God was the one that inspired the gentleman or the lady or whoever it might have been that came up with the idea to do a blood transfusion that was perfected over time. So I don't really necessarily buy the religious argument when it comes to the vaccinations. Don't even necessarily buy the whole, I'm just not going to do it because Aunt Dorothy's daughter from 23 years ago had some sort of an adverse reaction and it was a 1 in a million thing, but just in case, we're not doing it here. And no, Aunt Dorothy's not an actual relative of mine. That was just a name that came to the top of my head. I do have an Aunt Dorothy, but that didn't actually happen. Alright, so last thing I really wanted to touch on, and then we will have to shut things down because I do have to start getting ready for the other one. There is a story that is starting to make the rounds on the interwebs that apparently, and I will have more for this hopefully by this weekend because I want to try to get it confirmed through more than just a couple of sources I've seen it on so far. There's now a rumor going around that the person who murdered Chris Kyle, Chief Kyle, was possibly an Islamic sympathizer, maybe even a jihadist, depending on which sources you look at. As I get more information, I will definitely share it with you. If that's true, to me it puts things in a whole new perspective, because the simple fact of the matter is, and I know there are people out there that disagree. When I first started trying to research as much as I could find about Chris Kyle, the whole Jesse Ventura thing came up. The fact that there were some reports that weren't ever able to really be substantiated about some things that he might have done during Katrina have been making the rounds. And I refuse to speak ill of the dead. At this point, what I am going to do is I'm going to research as much as I can and find out as much as we can about this guy that killed him, and if it turns out that he is some sort of a Muslim sympathizer, then as far as I'm concerned, he should be made to take a nice long walk off of a nice short pier, preferably somewhere near the whatever river it is that has in South America that has the piranha. Just saying. Alright, so that's going to do it for tonight, folks, for the America Off the Rails show. I am Rick Robinson. Don't forget, here in just a few minutes, we will be right back and live with the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show with my good friend Grouchy. And then at the conclusion of that show, we will have Liberty Unfiltered, which typically does air on Wednesday nights, but thanks to technical issues on my side, we couldn't make that happen last night. And then, of course, we'll go right straight into the Liz Harrison Radio Show. You guys have a great night. It's been my pleasure. I do hope you've enjoyed the show today. I'll be back with you live tomorrow. Then, of course, we have 5 hours of nonstop radio. Well, nonstop with a break here and there. But I like to say nonstop because we have tried it before. It just doesn't work out real well right now because things just don't work well when you do 5 hours and you've got hosts coming in and going out. It's just eventually we'll get it set up that way, but right now it don't work. But anyway, we do have 5 hours of live radio on Saturdays. That would be Finding Common Ground, then Opinion Nation, and then yours truly back again on America Off the Rails. And then, of course, don't forget later that evening on every Saturday we do have Voices of Global Freedom Radio. And actually, One last thing, don't forget tomorrow night we will have the Unapologetically Bunny show airing Fridays, and of course we will have the Voices of Global Freedom Radio primetime replay. Alright folks, that's going to do it for tonight. I'm going to shut everything down, get everything situated to start running the back seats so my good buddy Grouchy can get up in front of the microphone and knock your socks off with some grumpiness and some facts. We'll be right back here in just a little bit, folks. Thanks for tuning in and take care.